Welcome to Chapter 3 of Adobe Premiere Made Easy. In the previous chapters, we've covered video editing basics and explored Premiere's workspace concept. Now we'll dive into importing media to create our first movie. As always, Premiere offers multiple ways to achieve your goals. After we've clicked New Project, we chose a name and location and ignored the import options by just clicking Create. Before clicking Create, you also have the option to choose a project template, which I will cover in a later chapter. If I click Create now, we are where we left off in the last chapter, in Chapter 2, but no worries, we can always return to the import page by clicking Import on the top left corner of your screen. On the left side, you find possible media locations, folders, drives, and cloud storage, and on the right side, various import settings. In my case, the media for this project is stored on Drive E. You need to go to the location where you've downloaded the footage from the link in the description. To navigate, you can choose between the grid view and the list view. The grid view is also called thumbnail view. Whatever view you prefer, we go to our directory with the footage, and here we can dive down until we see the single files. Takes a moment to build up the thumbnails, and here we can select single files by just clicking or dragging over multiple files with the mouse. We can even select whole folders. When I go here, I can mark B-roll, and now I click Import, and all the selected files go into our project panel and into a bin. A bin in Premiere is similar to a folder in Explorer or Finder, and here we have all our footage in one bin. So we lost our organization. You could now recreate the already existing organizational structure by creating new bins and sub-bins. Let me quickly show you how to do that. For instance, we can create a new bin by clicking to this icon, New Bin, and make one for B-roll. And now move my B-roll by marking it here, pick it, move it into this folder. Look where I have more B-roll like here because we imported the whole B-roll folder. Move everything here. And now I move that folder under that bin. So it's a sub bin. Now I call this footage. And here I can make another subdirectory. If I'm on footage and I create a new bin, then it will be a sub bin and call this dialog. Now here I move all the dialog in the dialog folder, and now I have this structure. There are various ways to organize this. I could also mark files and then right click and say new bin from selection, and now this is automatically in a sub bin, which I don't need. That was nothing useful. So with Ctrl Z, I make this undone and I delete this empty bin. This is cumbersome and unnecessary. We will soon see other import methods which lets us keep the organization which we already painstakingly created on Explorer on Windows or Finder on a Mac. That's why I never use this import method. In Chapter 2, we've learned that Premiere works with pointers. After importing media, these files are not somewhere inside Premiere or in the Premiere project file. They stay where they are. You can right-click on any of these files and choose Reveal in Explorer on Windows or Reveal in Finder on a Mac, and it brings you to the physical location of this file. This is our directory structure, and we see it here in Footage, B-roll. In addition to importing, you can also ingest media, which involves copying the files. This makes sense if your media is on a removable storage, which will not be permanently connected to your PC or Mac, for instance a camera card. Eventually you will remove this card and format it to have room for further recorders. Linked media would be lost this way. In this case, I would strongly recommend that you copy your media from the SD card to the proper location first and then import it from there. But Premiere offers you a shortcut that I strongly advise against, but for the sake of completeness, I will also show you this way. So let me mark with Ctrl A all the imported footage and delete it. So don't worry, nothing will happen to the original footage. We just deleted the pointers to it. And we go back to that import page. And here I have a SD card connected to my computer with some footage. I choose this media from the SD card. And if I just import it, the link will be broken as soon as I take the card out of my card reader and back into my camera. But I have the option to copy on import and can even choose between a more secure and a longer and simple mode. Here I can choose that copy and have these two options. So let's hit import and see what's happening. The clips are immediately available in our project, but when I choose Reveal in Explorer, it still points to the clips on the SD card because the copy process is still underway. You might also have noticed that Premiere started another program, Media Encoder. Media Encoder and Bridge are companion programs which are automatically installed with Premiere. When we switch to Media Encoder, we see that all the files we chose to import and copy are listed here for ingestion. Let's do that here. Go to Media Encoder, and you see they are all here to ingest. Some are already done, and some are still on the SD card and in the waiting line to be processed. So let's check some which are already done. Take 5, scene 5, take 16 is already done. So let's see here 16, right click and reveal in Explorer. Now they are on our hard drive, but not in the location which we like them to be. They all end up in our projects directory and not in our footage directory. I could move them into the proper location with my Explorer or Finder, but that would result in a broken link. But that is not even the worst. Let's assume we realized during editing that we need a graphic, which we can either create or download and properly save them into our graphics folder. Let's choose File Import. We will come back to this method in just a moment. Go to our graphic directory and import this SD graphic. And I click Open. And now I click to my SD graphic and see it reveal in Explorer where it is. And again, it ended up as a subdirectory graphics into my project directory. And that's definitely not what I want. So Premiere remembered that we want to copy on import and created a totally unnecessary copy of this file because the original is still in our graphics directory. So this method really gets you into trouble. Now we have totally unnecessary duplicates of media files, which eats up precious space. I strongly recommend to never use that option. Let's go back to the import page, uncheck copy media. Now we go in edit again into our project. We delete this. First I say reveal in Explorer, and I want to mark all these files in all these media files in my project folder. I mark all these, and I also mark the graphics directory. And now I delete it. In Premiere, of course, I have all these broken links, but we ignore that because we're gonna delete all these files anyway and look at better ways to import media. Here we have the option you briefly saw before, File Import. And actually there's 3 ways to go to File Import. The long way, which I just show you, or you can use the shortcut Control-I or Command-I on a Mac. So this brings you to the Explorer window, or here Control-I brings you to the same Explorer window. The third method is to just double-click in an empty space on your project panel. It all leads to the same thing. Here we can go to the right directory. Here I have my footage. I can go into that, mark several files. The usual way you would do that with Explorer or Finder, you can use Control or Command on a Mac to select files. You can drag over multiple files. You can hit Control-A or Command-A to mark them all, whatever you do in Finder or Explorer. Okay, let's mark, let's say, these 3 files, and then hit Import, Open, and here they are without any structure. But the good thing on this method, let me delete them. The good thing on this method, I double-click now in an empty space on my panel. I can import complete folders with all their subfolders. Let's do that with footage. Go on Import Folder, and you see we still have the organization we had on Explorer before. Everything is neatly organized in their respective folders and subfolders. So this is a great advantage to the import page we saw before, but let me delete that again. Control-A and delete. Unfortunately, you cannot import multiple folders at once. Even if I mark them all, you see here I go from 1 to 7, I go to Import Folder, and it's still only imported 1. The 06 in this case. I don't actually know why 06 and not the other one. Anyway, we have to go now folder by folder if we want to do that. So I can import folder 1, then I can import folder 2, and this is unnecessarily long and complicated. This is a much better way to import media than the import page here, but still far from perfect. The next method is by using the media browser. If you are in the assembly workspace, you find the media browser panel in the same window where the project panel is. If not, you can go to Window and look for Media Browser and just tick it. So here on the Media Browser, we have a lot of options. We can see all our drives, our locations, we see cloud space, and you can even define favorites. If you want to use the same directory or the same drive, you can just right-click to any of this and add to favorites, add that. We don't do that now. I just go to my YouTube tutorial, and here I see all my directories. And the good thing here, we can import all the directories we choose at once. We can either mark them here. Let's go from 1 to 7 by keeping my Shift key, and I click here, first 1 and then 7. And now we right-click and we can import it. And it all lands in our project in the right structure. You see everything is upsala. Let me click here on the top of the column. So this is sorted ascending. Now I have 1 on the top and 7 on the bottom. And here in footage, I have all my subfolders, everything, the whole structure. You can do that, as I just showed you, by right-clicking and go on Import. I'm going to delete that again. If you have your project and media browser panel in different windows, let's move the project panel to this window, for instance, and go to the media browser here. Then you can do the same by drag and drop. I can just drag and drop that into my project, and here we are. Now I can move my project back to the same window, and you see the flexibility of the workspace in Premiere is amazing. I love it. One of the biggest advantages of the media browser is that it actually shows you video files which cannot be viewed by Windows Explorer or Finder on a Mac. For instance, let me show you an example. I go here and I have in this drive, I have Blackmagic footage. And when we go here, we can scrub over it. That's another big advantage of the media browser. And I can even double click it and view it in the source monitor. Oops, where is it? Double click. Now it's in my source monitor and I can view it, my footage, my clip. And what is so special about that? Let me right click and go to Reveal in Explorer. In Explorer here, I don't really see a video. I see very many files, a total of 1,285. 1,284 of them are single images, still images, and one on the very top is the WAV file with a sound. That's the way the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera is recording video. And for the media encoder, it knows how to interpret it. We have here this option Directory Viewers. It automatically realized this is a cinema DNG format and shows us this footage as a video instead of single images. That's a great advantage depending on the camera you're using or the footage you get from other people shot on various cameras. And you see you have here in this directory viewers, you have several options. Let's say you shoot on an ARRI or a Canon RAW or any of these formats, which cannot be displayed in Explorer or Finder. That's a great advantage. To sum it up, the media browser offers you several advantages. View video files that cannot be viewed on Windows Explorer or Finder on a Mac. Hover, scrub, or double-click for a full preview. Import existing file structures. So I can highly recommend this method, but it's still not my favorite. Since this tutorial is called Adobe Premiere Made Easy, there's another method which is just quicker and easier and therefore my favorite. Let's go back to our project. I select everything, delete it, and now we are finally doing what Premiere is asking us all along. Drag media here or import it. We have seen various import options. Now we go to our Explorer, and here we have our project, and I can just simply drag all my folders here, and you see how fast and easy that is. And I keep all my structure, my organization. Let me sort it by ascending here. You just click on one of the top on each column and it sorts it either ascending or descending. If I want to have it descending here, ascending here. Now I have footage, I have all my files imported in a clean and orderly structure. At the end of this chapter of importing media, and just to cover it all, I show you another method which I don't recommend. It's quick and dirty, and because it's so quick, it's sometimes tempting to use it, but it's really dirty. So let me mark this all again, Control A, delete. Instead of dragging into your project, you can also drag footage directly into the timeline. Let's take this clip and drag it not into the project window, but into the timeline. When I release it, you see we created an imported file and we created a sequence. This is the symbol for the sequence. And here we have already our first timeline. This is really dirty and I wouldn't recommend it. I just showed it to you to complete this import chapter. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful, and I hope to see you in our next chapter. If you liked it, please click like and subscribe. Bye bye.